I'm so excited to have you both on today. I'm just going to do a little short reintro of myself for those that are new. So this is my 5th time hosting our Jane Ambassador office hours. My name is Dr. Adelle Smener. I am a PT and now clinic owner here in Los Angeles, California. So really big change. Perfect time of year to be having this conversation and to have these two amazing humans here with me to be going over basically year-end metrics. So crushing all the numbers, the metrics, the finances that are going to allow us to thrive in the new year. So today we have Miss Ildi and Mr. Robin here, first name basis. We're that close now. If you guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit more and tell the people a little bit about you.
Ildi, you go right ahead, please.
Oh, thank you. Hey, everyone. I'm Ildi, and I primarily work with fee-for-service clinics like med spas, primarily med spas, and help them get organized in their businesses. I also work with a lot of acupuncture clinics. And I'm really here to help people run a profitable business where there's a culture where we all enjoy selling and it is profit oriented, where we can use simple systems so that we don't get crushed by the responsibility of being a practitioner and being a clinic owner.
Hi, everyone. Robin Valadares. I'm a physiotherapist. I'm actually in the treatment room right now, but also a personal finance educator, helping individuals like yourself, health professionals, understand how money works, apply it effectively so you can, in essence, live life on your terms and do the things you want to do versus the things you need to do. Partly as well, I'm also a clinic owner as well, so I understand some of the nuance of being both a practitioner, an owner, and investor.
Oh, doing all the things. Wow, it's impressive. Very, very impressive crew. So as I said, I'm super excited to have you both here for today's conversation around year-end metrics. I mentioned to both of you, and maybe it's just me, or maybe this is very relatable, but metrics, finances, and all the numbers in between are not really my favorite part about running a business. That said, I fully appreciate and understand how important they are, which is why I'm excited to have you both here to help break that down for others who feel similarly to me, or for those who are ready to level up and learn even more. So today we're going to be diving into which metrics actually matter, which ones don't, or maybe don't need to be tracked as often, and how understanding those numbers from this past year are going to help us thrive and be maybe a little bit more intentional in the new year. So without further ado, we're going to dive into the big question. What specific numbers should every practitioner review at year's end to really understand how their practice is performing? Loaded question, I know.
Sorry, Ildi, I can take it away. I kind of look at four things. First thing is how much money you make, total revenue. Okay, what's coming into the door? That's what it's not a charity, unfortunately. It's a business. You have to be able to make money and survive to serve your clients. Then what comes out of your pocket? So you got money coming in, total revenue. What comes out? What are the expenses like? And then at the left end of the day, what's the net income? How much money you actually make on what you pull in, what you spend, and what's the bottom line, as they call it. And lastly, more of a nuanced one is how much money is owing to me? What is my accounts receivable? Which might seem like it's not very important, but over time, if that accrues and becomes stale, it's hard to collect that. And then, in essence, you give the service and you have a loss.
Straight to it. I love it.
Yeah. And I knew, Robin, I was purposely quiet, so you'd go first and outline all of that. And I can certainly build on it, I would say. And I should say by intro, Robin, like you reminded me, I'm a former clinic owner. I exited in 2019, and I've been working with clinics for 24 years, down in the nitty gritty day to day. Adelle, you're such a normal clinic owner where literally the Family Feud number one answer of what part of your business do you really dislike the most? It's the numbers, only followed second by marketing. But numbers is the number one answer in my experience from my clients. And I think I explain it similar to you, Robin, to say, I think it's so important for people to really understand the difference between revenue and profit. Revenue is the money you make and profit is the money you keep. And certainly for the clinics that I work with, I've had the vantage point my clients are like from, 50% in the US and 50% in Canada over all these years, the average profitability. So you made $100, that was your revenue, but after you paid everything that Robin mentioned, you got how much left over. The average is 6 to 11%. So it means for every $100 you made, you got to keep 6 to 11 cents on that dollar.
That doesn't sound very good.
It is not very good.
Okay. I was like, I know I said numbers aren't my thing, but I don't think that's very good.
It's not very good. I just want to say, like, if people are like, wow, like money is coming in, but I just don't have a lot in my bank account, I have to dip into my personal savings, all of these things, I guess we're partly here in the Jane community to normalize some of this, to say, if somebody's experiencing that, that's okay. It tells us a couple of things. One, that if our margin, like if it's 6 to 11 cents, then we need to be serving quite a lot of people to put more 11 cents in the bank. Your other option is to take 11 cents, or say I make 7 cents out of every dollar after I paid everything and all the rest, and say, I wonder how I could shift that 7 cents on the dollar to be 25 cents. And honestly, even if you went from 7 to 14 or 15, like, you have won Clinic Olympics. You're okay.
So I guess a follow-up question to that would be, and this is for both of you, right? Because obviously it's like the difference between like your revenue and your expenses. When do we know as clinic owners what the problem is, right? How do we decide, is it revenue, meaning like, do we raise our prices? Do we change something about how much money is coming in? Or is it that we're spending too much money? How do we go about deciding that?
Robin, you want to go?
Yes, so that's kind of the vital signs of a business, are those metrics. Then you look internally in terms of what the actual procedures are happening in the clinic between individuals. So one thing you look at is your patient retention rate across the board. Are you not capitalizing? Is it something internally with your systems and your intake that's not doing a great job compared to industry standards? Is it client specific or practitioner specific that they need some more training on how to increase the retention? Are they being particularly utilized well? You have all the rooms available, the whole hour of the day is scheduled, but their bookings is sparse between the two. So am I not using something more effectively with the hours I have available versus saying, I'm only open 1 day a week, therefore I'm not making money, therefore I'm not making profit. Okay, let's expand the hours available. Makes sense.
Yeah. Would you say so that ties into revenue then, right? You're like, hey, so your utilization is not as high, or your conversion rate from like that first session is not very high. That's limiting the money coming in.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Or you're spending the wrong amount of time in lost leaders, whether it's not generating revenue, but it's not a differentiating factor to your competitors. So if they're not one of those two, then it's a lost leader. You want to be able to grow your income, but also differentiate yourself. And some things that differentiate yourself are not the most profitable, but it makes you stand out, which is valuable, more of the intangible benefit.
Yeah.
The last thing is what's coming in. What's the patient volume? Sure, you're doing great with retention, but you only get 2 new patients a week, and they're staying for 6, 7 visits. Perfect. But if you're getting 30 coming in a week, great SWAT. Then you're optimizing on both ends there. So that's what I would look at.
Yeah.
Okay. So sounds like a little bit more like revenue focused first is kind of the first part of the equation, is like looking at that side before maybe diving into expenses, would you say?
I think that's the hardest part, is driving revenue, because you need more hours in a given day, more people in a given hour, and more per visit. The easier part is taking introspection, saying, what is my line item? Saying, okay, I can cut that expense. No heavy lifting on my end. It might be just a couple of keyboard strikes and it's gone. It's a low lift. So focus on the harder things there, and then come back and lose some of the lower. You can do both at the same time too.
Yeah. I was going to say expenses for sure is the easiest part, Adele, to look at, because you can look at your credit card statement or your bank statement. Yes, they are nausea-inducing activities to actually look at our own credit card statements again. I'm here to normalize.
Okay.
But literally step 1, open up your credit card statement and look at what you spent money on. And that's where you go, wow, I have 4 things I subscribe to. And yeah, they're maybe costing $27 at a time or $297 at a time, but that really adds up. And when you see that number, you have a lot of choice and agency to say, I don't need that. I'm not using that anymore. And so like I always, when I look at Robin's work. He's really down in the numbers, and I love it. I always learn so much from you, Robin, when when I'm in these sessions. And we more look at behaviors that drive revenue. And one of the behaviors is I don't look at my credit card statement every month because I'm avoiding how it makes me feel. So I don't want to go into therapy. I'm not a qualified therapist. I am a certified coach. But I'm reporting what hundreds of my clients have said. Like, I'm avoiding this activity because, how it's going to make me feel to go, wow, I spend $5,000, like $5,000 gets applied to my credit card every month and that money's coming out. So or your bank statement. It's really easy just to say, yeah, well, sometimes people look at a spreadsheet or your Visa bill as a reflection of the numbers. I also see behaviors. Those numbers are an outcome of a behavior. The behavior might very understandably be, as three business owners here, of, oh my gosh, panic, half my schedule's empty, I need more patients. Where are they coming from? And the shiny marketing object out there that says, make $1 million working on your phone 2 hours a week while you balance your life. Then we're into a marketing activity where our time is being traded to learn a skill that we're probably never going to be very qualified to do. And you've spent money and not gotten a result. So then we try the next thing and next thing. And like a strange fantasy as a clinic business consultant of mine has been to take each one of my clients and add up end to end from the beginning of time when you started in a part-time business to today. How much money have you actually spent on marketing? And I think it would be a grotesque amount for most of us because we're trying, whether it's like how to post on Instagram or how to do other things. And it's just important to be aware of those behaviors that are producing the numbers that Robin's talking about. And I really want to choose the platform today, Adelle, to share an opinion about something I see people getting into with these financial exercises. Like, all of a sudden, it's a new me, it's a new year, and I'm going to commit to knowing my numbers. Like, people like Robin are the best people to guide you through those, because you're not going to like give up your life and turn into this financial expert. You're going to learn the core things to look at. So I sometimes see people overachieving, us overachievers, to say, I'm going to finally get to know my numbers. And you take some course that tells you need to know your revenue per square foot. You need to know your revenue per treatment room. And listen, like, if you love all that, do it. I'm here to let you know from thousands of clients, no one's business was ever affected when they didn't know that number. Like, stick with the core things that Robin outlined and open the credit card statement. I agree. We look a great deal to conversion and retention. So conversion is how many people contacted my clinic interested that converted into a consult.
What would be a good goal number for that, would you say? Because these are some of the things like tying to revenue, like utilization percentage, conversion percentage. Those are the behavior changes that you guys are kind of talking about that really matter and drive like long-term improvement and profitability. So what are some goals that you guys think are like achievable that people should be aiming for in that regard?
I think, Adelle, while you meant well, I always like to say, am I allowed to introduce that in the form of a different question? We have our clients measure what their current conversion is, right? Because if you say, well, my conversion rate is 30%. So for every 10 people that call my clinic or contact us, how many go from interested to booking a consult? And if you're seeing 10 people, if 3 out of 10 people said yes, then your conversion rate is 30%. And I'm not here to say whether that's good or bad. I'm there to go, awesome. Like, you took a benchmark. This is where you're starting. What is literally life-changing shifting is when you practice some sales skills. I know sometimes not people's favorite word, or what we call like consults that convert, or phone calls or things that convert, to shift 3 out of 10 to 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. Oh my gosh, that's where the change happens. And the good news is, if you're a person like answering the phone or sending emails or whatever to your client, you look at, all right, what's been working with the people who say yes versus, wow, I saw 10 people and only 3 people said yes because no one's spending and cauliflower's $32 and all the things. You have a lot of control around that consult. And retention, I am putting all the chips in, like everything I have and everything I own, that for even a semi-established clinic, like not brand new, but semi-established to like you've been in business a little while, 80% of your revenue will come from the patients you already have or people you already know.
Good to know.
So focus on your existing patients versus worrying getting new ones. And in our current trust recession, or what we call a trust recession, we have to do more to demonstrate why it's worth coming into your clinic. And it's the people who already know us that are the best foundation to build on to get new ones.
Robin, any thoughts?
Yeah, great point, Italy. And that's the concept of a client lifetime value. Your existing clients are your warm leads. You can foster that growth if they need more services or products. For percentages, though, I guess it depends on the medium of which you're trying to convert with, whether it's a website, whether it's a one-on-one call with you, Adelle. Hey, I'm going to speak to you about you're calling me at the clinic and I might help you with your right shoulder. How do I do that? That's likely going to be higher because that's that soft touch. You already made the need to come and call me. Now I'm going to try to help you and best suit you and serve you. And then there's email conversions where you send out email blasts, and that's generally lower because it's not as one-to-one, not a personal touch point. So maybe on emails, I'm looking at 10%. On one-on-one phone calls, north of 50%. And then if you're looking at websites, depending on the target audience and how you well specify your ads, it could be as low as 5 up to 20. It's variable. But if people are calling you and you have a good administrative team, they are your best sales people. And it's not like you're selling them on fish oil or snake oil. You're selling them on a good or service, and you're being honest with them whether they can benefit from your services or you can refer elsewhere to serve them. That's the goal.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, another benchmark that kind of pops up for me, Ildi, you touched on the beginning of, I think the average you said was like 6 to 11% profitability. Is there a target or goal that you guys think that people should be aiming for?
Yeah, more than last year, more than last quarter, more than last month. Like all of us are like living in clinics. And so the goal is relative to where you are. And I will say though now, again, depending case by case, a 5% increase, so making 10 cents on the dollar and then adding in 15 cents on the dollar, like, or even 5 cents or even 10, it's huge. I am seeing numbers like in the double digits, sometimes 20 to 25%. However, I think Robin highlighted a really key point, which is, you know, he started talking about how we're using our time in clinics, what services bring in what money. So I find where profitability gets asked as one big question based on what Robin told us, it means that some of the treatments and services or products in your clinic are more profitable than others. And there's something in us, Adelle and Robin, that makes me take like my worst grade and try and improve it when we all know that's not how it works. So take what is working well, what is what we call a bestseller or most profitable, and find ways to do more of it. So people talk about scaling their business to increase profitability. I'd like us to stop saying that, because in reality, what I've seen in 25 years is we don't scale our business. Like, so we do growth and scale. Growth is 2 plus 2 plus 2, and scale is 2 times 2 times 2. If somebody has like some easy method that by next week I can scale everybody's business, call me. But what actually happens in real life is most of us grow our businesses for a long time, adding 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. If you're getting 5 new clients a month as a new clinic, that's 60 a year. You've, I think, won Clinic Olympics. If you're not happy with that, like, great, try and do better. But when we do scaling, we scale parts of our business. You grow parts of your business. And I think what was so important about Robin's point earlier is not all services and parts of the business are equal. So an acupuncture clinic, they might charge $90 an hour for a treatment. Then they decide to introduce microneedling, for example. That's $300 to $325 per hour. They're not the same.
So how do you decide which ones, I guess, like, do give you the most return? Like, is it like which ones I've booked the most? Like, I guess, because I'm thinking for myself, I have 4 different services that I offer. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, like, which ones are good? Is it like, I guess, like, what should we be tracking with them? Is it like when they're booked the most, or how much of my revenue is coming from them? Both? Something completely different?
I like to fast track that question. And then Robin, I want to hear, like, can you please assess my financial answer? Adelle, take that thing when you have 4 services, okay? And then take one and max it out. I don't know how, but somehow through Jane Magic, we filled your entire schedule with that thing. You're going to hit a ceiling of how much money you can make. Let's say it's 100. You can only do 100 of those all year. Like, you have no more schedule left. This is the time and money trade-off. So if you maxed it out and you were so fortunate and blessed to have the problem of being maxed out in that service, then we look at the numbers to say, wow, I did that $90 service and filled my entire schedule with it. Now I'm looking in my bank and there's not a lot of money in the bank, right? My expenses are under control, my spending's under control, but there's not a lot left. So you got 2 choices. You can raise the prices, which you can't do that constantly, or you could decide to do another service for the same amount of time, still 1 hour of time, but instead of charging $90, what service can you do for $200, $300? And an important kind of trap I've seen my clients get into is going, well, Ildi, the others around us are charging $90 for the same treatment. We could only go as high as 100 or 110 before we feel like we become too expensive. So I like to have a diverse portfolio of services to experiment with, especially for most of the people in the Jane community where, some people are doing insurance and private pay, and the cultures within their specialties tell them that we're not allowed to take money from people because we feel bad about out of pocket, and we have limited mindsets to say, like, nobody's spending now, the economy's bad. But what I get to see is when you slowly introduce and say, what if you shift from doing all insurance payment to some out of pocket or private pay or some higher price services, and start experimenting and practicing introducing those? Then you start to say, Adelle, with all of that time, all your time maxed out, you don't have to choose between the $90 service or the $325. You get to do both. But if you have a core belief that $325 treatment is like a ripoff, you'd never pay it, you feel like slimy and gross selling it or bringing it to your patients, like, there's other things that need to be explored there.
Very, very well said, Ildi. I am kind of cutting cold and calculated when it comes to this, and we're just assuming that the main goal is to generate profit independent of the goodwill you might do as a clinic. We look at what I look at as the most finite resource we have, and that's our time, and break everything down based on a unit of time. So if you have a 90-minute appointment that's, let's say, $150, and a 45-minute appointment that's $90, guess what? The best unit of time is the 45 minutes at $90 for $1 per minute. And that's the income coming in. And then for that given unit of time, what is my expense on the outlay that I have to use or give out to generate that same? And what is that profit per minute? And I can lean into that higher yielding profit per minute because time is finite, but I can increase the bandwidth that way. So that's the pure dollar amount. And then look at the volume. Sure, you might have the greatest, hey, $1,000 for 10 minutes of time, but no one books it. Whoop-de-doo. So it doesn't matter. Look at the volume. You can back that up. To your earlier question about what margin am I looking for, and this is where my investor hat comes in, and this is only under the assumption that you're looking to generate the most amount of money or profit, is you have to understand the opportunity cost of your time and the opportunity cost of your dollar. And many of us get into the business, as Michael Gerber would say, who's the author of E-Myth, because we're a skilled technician and we're tired of working for somebody who have our own ideas. So we want to take the next logical step and be an owner in that technician or that skill set. Okay, because it doesn't require any educational schooling. There's a low barrier to entry. We know the process. We've worked through the process. That's the next skill set. However, to do that, you're in the business to earn money to satisfy your obligations, your dependents, and your lifestyle. So you have to turn some sort of a profit. But the benchmark should be is if I give you this dollar, can you outdo what the market is? And it's not the market in terms of business market. It's the market in terms of a natural everyday investor. And typically that's the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100. Because why would I own a business that takes me a lot of hassle factor? I cannot sleep. I got gray hair, human resources. I got suppliers I got to worry about for 6% return on my investment, then taking the same dollar and getting the market average 10 to 11%. I can put it away, put my fee back, and it's earning me more than all the hassle with this. So understand the opportunity cost of that dollar. So I would say in excess of 11 or 12% is where I would start off with. Otherwise, I'm doing it for maybe the goodwill, but it can't feed my obligations because I might as well invest in the S&P.
Yeah. Well said. All right. So diving back a little bit more into, I know we talked about, the whole topic today is like metrics, right? And we're talking about all the things that go into it. We've talked about revenue. We've talked about profitability. We've talked about expenses, but not necessarily a goal for like expenses. Like, how do you guys look at your expenses at the end of the year? Other than obviously like you're looking at your credit card statement, but what are you kind of looking for when you're assessing your expenses over the last year?
I'm looking for redundancy. So things that maybe are outdated that don't provide the same sort of yield, both in monetary costs or hassle factor. I'm looking into areas where I can streamline my efficiencies with automation potentially, and that could be the buzzword of today, or AI, something that makes my life easier. I'm looking for where the trajectory of the business is going and whether or not I can see myself me signing a contract for 5 years for a MailChimp subscription or ConvertKit. But do I need that? Because now I'm doing internal marketing through, let's say, Jane, and see the trajectory there, whether I invest my time and a commitment for X amount of years. So redundancy is a big thing because, believe it or not, we'll subscribe, like Ildi mentioned earlier. Let's say your personal finance and you have 5 different streaming services. Guess what? You only watch one once a year and you're paying for $100. It makes no sense. So do some introspection and say, okay, I'm not doing it right now. Look at my habit for the last 12 months. I don't foresee doing it in the future. Let's cut the cord on that so-and-so expense. So yeah, those are the 3 kind of come to mind off the bat.
Okay, that's really helpful. Okay, what about, we talked also about conversion percentage, utilization percentage as well. Does that differ for you guys when you're thinking about like a solo provider versus how does someone who manages a clinic with several providers kind of look at those numbers? Because right, a lot of it is like, I mean, I think back to like when I was managing a clinic of like 4 PTs underneath me, right? I have to look at utilization and conversion rate of the clinic as a whole, but also maybe looking at it, of each provider, right? Like who is struggling where are they thriving? And I imagine that's important when you're goal setting for the upcoming year and how you kind of set your team up to succeed too.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Robin.
I'm happy to go again. Okay, yes. I don't want to be, once again, cold, but think about you have a diversified portfolio in your clinic, right? Not you own different assets, but you have different practitioners who are working for you. In essence, they can have better. One person might have a great retention rate, another person has a lower one, but the average, what you earn in a given year, is the average between the 4 or 5 people you have. So you can weight down some poor performance or suboptimal performance by having some high generating clinicians working for you. Mm-hmm. So you can spread some of your risk, so say, because it's not key person risk. The key person risk is if you're an individual practitioner and all you have is based on your output you give, then you have to be very particular about your retention rate and be a lot higher, because guess what? You don't have somebody else to pick up the slack if you were to have a down month or down quarter that way.
Yeah, I think that around that, Adelle, so many solo practitioners do better. They always say, well, like, oh, we're not like a clinic with multiple rooms. I just work by myself. And I'm like, those people are actually really tracking expenses incredibly well. They do open their credit card statement. They have to be like super budget conscious because they are often working with less. I think that the automations and things that Robin referred to, And the redundancies, like, again, look at that, look at your expenses. How many newsletters, are you part of unnecessary paid newsletters? Are you using multiple softwares that you don't need to be? But that's where we really like to focus on using what you already have. So even Jane, if I think to all of the new features and automations that have been introduced in the last year, I mean, I've been an ambassador, I think almost 3 years now, there are so many new functions in there that are already part of what you already get to use. So we sort of have a framework we use that says, like, if we go on the premise that, it gets to be easy, use what you have, use what you know, and then commit to taking some kind of imperfect action. Look at what you're investing in, like this software platform, which is so much more, and just commit to saying, hey, this is the monthly fee I'm paying. I wonder what features solo practitioners like me are using that I don't even know about. And investing some of your time and energy, not in becoming like that big Jane expert, but really asking that question, calling support, and seeing there are some amazing new features in there, or ones that probably existed for a long time that I'm learning all the time about what's there and how other people use it, to save a ton of time and reduce a ton of expenses. You asked about conversion and metrics. I mean, we have a conversion calculator that we use, but if you didn't have that, we call that exercise, like, if you want to calculate the metric of your conversion rate, we call it fingerprints on the screen. I know my clients have done it because when I go to their clinics, there's fingerprints on the screen. So you open up your software, you open up your scheduling system, and count on the screen the number of new consults that you did, let's say last month, the month before, and the month before that. So every month you did, let's say you did 5 new consults a month, or 7, the number is going to vary. And then count up how many of those people moved from a consult to a treatment. That's a conversion. That I always like people to look at 2 metrics. One, of the 10 people that you saw for a consult in October, how many said, yes, I'd love to go to treatment? And how many said no? And however many said yes, that's your conversion rate. So if you saw 10 people and 6 people said, yes, I'll go to treatment, your conversion rate is 6 out of 10, or 60%. Everybody's like screaming, going, tell me if that's good or bad, or what it should be at. Well, if you're an established clinic and you've been doing this a while, then your conversion rate should be higher. But the reality is, at least it's a benchmark from where you're starting. And then you could go, okay, what can I do? And I'm sensitive to the fact that people say, well, yeah, I don't want to hear about sales. I don't want to hear about consults, but you can't practition if we don't get them into treatment. So the skill is looking at the consult. And I think every practitioner's dream is, could I never do consults again? And could I please just treat? Because that's what's revenue generating. Yeah. And what I always loved, like, Robin, about your approach is, even now in your last answer, you looked at the steps we need to take in metrics in order to actually be able to calculate, have money to calculate. Because if you don't have the chance to do that, that's pretty scary, because your expenses stay constant through the month. So don't be afraid to do a manual exercise and count. A tiny bit of magic that happens is, once you know your conversion metric, that for every 5 people I talk to, 3 seem to come in for treatment and 2 don't. Simply having that awareness seems to set an intention in all of you to do better. It's an even better exercise. But Robin, I'm sure you could talk to even the metrics and money that it costs to even get that person there. And that's why it's worth it at the beginning, because you have no revenue and no profit. And this discussion's a moot point if you couldn't get them to convert.
Yeah. I think too, like, I'm like sifting through the chat. So big shout out to Lauren, who is like answering a lot of like the Jane specific questions, and like which reports and whatnot, like people using to kind of learn and dive into some of the stuff that we're talking about more. But I'm curious from your guys' perspective. We've talked about revenue, expenses, profitability, conversion, retention, utilization. I feel like those are kind of like the biggest metrics that keep kind of coming up. Do you guys have specific ways that you guys are using Jane for those, or are you guys using QuickBooks or other apps and programs and software to kind of track that stuff? Excel sheets. I know I was doing a lot on Excel for like my utilization and conversion percentages. But I don't know if you guys have a way of doing all that within Jane. I'm curious what you guys do with your practices.
Robin, you're the one with an active practice.
I'll go back to a nice, interesting story before I answer that. Forgive me, Adele, regarding expenses. Here at the clinic, we're an orthopedic clinic. We deal with a lot of people with musculoskeletal injuries, and of that procedure is dealing with bracing. And we would order braces on behalf of the clients, but we do 1 day shipping because we thought it would be easier, kind of like Prime. Let's get it in a 1 day. We ended up costing us thousands of dollars in expedited shipping. And all we did was some introspection, said, okay, we can let our clients wait 3 to 4 days. We'll do all our shipping done on one given day at the end of the week. And that saves you thousands of dollars without a huge disturbance to their quality of life by waiting an extra couple of days for their brace. But that was something simple on expense side that we implemented, let's say, last year. With respect to Jane, majority of your reports can be done in Jane. Your retention rate can be pulled in Jane. Your utilizations versus your hours booked versus hours schedule, that's in Jane. Referral reports, where they come from, that's in Jane, and the monetary value for each report is there. You can look at your product performance report in Jane. It sees which appointments, the unit of time, and the billables associated with it. That's done with Jane. There are some nuanced things you can't really pull just yet, and that's where an Excel spreadsheet, like you mentioned, Adele, might come in handy. But the vast majority, you can pull it off in seconds on Jane.
Yeah, I would say like a lot of the data is in Jane, and it's just about like how you want to view it. And if you want to recognize like different patterns, that's where like putting it like an Excel sheet can be helpful. But I definitely think like almost all the data that we're talking about is in Jane.
It is.
Yeah.
I was going to say the no-show rate I'm still finding is really important to look at. Again, that's a couple of clicks in Jane. It's there. Really worth looking at, because that's also within your control of tightening up the process, like making it just a real low lift for people to book an appointment and get to that appointment. It's worth looking at because everyone's working so hard to get that patient in there. And by no show, I don't mean a reschedule. That's the thing. Sometimes my clients they'll email me an SOS and say, like we had 18 no shows last month, and they're looking at it in retrospect, so nothing we can do now. But look at that no-show rate and separate it out. Like, even if you have to count, did they reschedule? Which maybe makes your no-show rate pretty small. Out of that 18 people, 4 actually no-showed, that's all right. But what could we do about that? But the rest are rescheduling. And that's where, again, you can just take action and say, wow, a lot of our people are rescheduling. Maybe we don't need to like tighten up the cancellation policy. Maybe discussion needs to happen in the room about what happens when life comes up and you do need to reschedule. I just think in the trust recession, you just need to provide more space for us and them. And I don't mind that a person needs to reschedule, although sometimes it could be annoying. I just care about retention. And I don't know why this came up, if I were in the comment or not, but for many of my clients, especially like medical aesthetic clinics, like only a handful of physio, Robin would know, and so on. But the percentage of overall revenue, if a clinic is selling product, would be 20 to 30% of revenue would be from product, and 60 to 70% would be from treatment. And it's very, very interesting to see how the two, so out of 100%, 60 to 70% treatment, 20 to 30% product, because it takes less energy to make revenue from products than it does from services. Services require human beings. We're all on like hands-on touch. So to Robin's point earlier, it takes less money to bring products into your clinic, like products that authentically and genuinely help with the care of your client and benefit them, add value, than it does to hire another practitioner or to like rev up or start some big marketing campaign.
Interesting. Yeah, no, very, very good points. Okay. As we kind of like start moving towards like the end of today's chat, I want to make sure we leave time for some questions. We have some questions through the chat that I'll kind of sift through, but we also got a couple pre-submitted questions that I think are actually really important and things that I didn't like totally consider. So first one is how, like, let's say you run all your reports, you hit your goal of profitability, which we said was like 20, right? We said it was like 25%, let's call it on average. Can we land somewhere in that realm? 20, 30? Yes, no?
Net profit?
Yeah.
I'd be thrilled with those numbers. Yes.
Great. Okay, cool. So we're there. How do you decide how much to reinvest back in the business, right, for this like upcoming year versus how much do you hold on to as true profit or savings?
Robin's going to think and give like a real detailed answer, and I'm going to give like a country mouse answer to it.
Sorry. It's another acronym, ROIC, return on invested capital. What is the return if you reinvest into the business? And if it's 1%, is that money better spent elsewhere? Is it better spent paying off a 6% loan, paying off debt? Yeah. Is it better spent having an emergency fund for 6 to 8 months of an expense in case your clinic gets closed down because of the pandemic? Yeah. Is it better put elsewhere in terms of generating new leads? Because your patient acquisition cost is low and every lead you get is 6%, perfect, or 20, 25%, like you mentioned earlier, Adelle. Maybe I'll do that. So depending where the money's treated best is where I would spend it.
And I want to echo to say, like, pay yourself, even if it's a small amount. And I find a lot of clinic owners, of course, you're taking care of your teams and making sure they're paid first. So I often hear, I don't pay myself, or I don't take pay, and I put everything back into the business. So pay yourself, and do ask your bookkeeper or accountant for their advice based on what they see in your numbers. How much right now can I pay myself? And I like to see people pay themselves, even if it's a small amount, something. I just don't think it's healthy to take nothing. And I have had people in the past who started paying themselves $100 to take something from that business. But that specific answer lies with your bookkeeper or your accountant, or from a like qualified financial professional like Robin to answer. But it's the reason why I do like clinics to have products, because it does have a way, especially consumable products. So products that people have to buy or can buy again and again. And that might mean just twice a year. It doesn't have to be like a monthly thing, because it is a revenue generating line that you can count on more. And then the operating expense has been a lifesaver. So ask your bookkeeper after you paid yourself, and of course, as many of your expenses as you can we start putting away small amounts, even if it's $1,000 a month? That's $12,000 at the end of the year, or half that, $6,000 at the end of the year. So you can have some cushion. Here we call it sleep at night, to know we have operating expense just for even 1 month. And the best way I like to suggest to do it is ask your bank, ask Robin, ask me, ask your bookkeeper, how can that come out of my bank account without me even knowing? That's the bank account I do like people to forget about. The one where $200 or $500 or $1,000 comes out without me knowing every month. And then I look at it once a year at the statement and go, wow, we have $6,000 because somebody took $109 a week out of our bank account and tucked it away for some safety.
So it's funny because like that brings me to my other question that was pre-submitted, was what's a healthy amount for a clinic to have in a rainy day fund? So it sounds like 1 month of expenses at minimum is like a safe amount to have. Would you guys agree with that? Is there an optimal number of months you'd want to have?
I like 3 months, Robin. Ideal, but the reality, a lot of people,
right?
1 month.
3 months, right? It's like the general rule.
What do you think? I like 1 month, but 3 months is ideal.
You'll sleep a lot better with 3 months, everyone. And some of the battle of being a business owner is being able to sleep well at night. Having that cushion is invaluable when push comes to shove, and you can lean on that emergency fund to make payroll or set your obligations. Yes, you'll give up profitability on that, but that's a worthy cost for the sleep at night factor and security. So yes, 3 months, 5 months, I'm good with those.
Okay, good. And it's interesting too, right? Because this goes back to even the beginning of the conversation. That's why it's important to know your expenses, because that's how you set your goals for like what your savings needs to be. If you don't know your expenses, how do you know how much you need to save, right? So full circle moment for sure. All right. Well, I wanted to thank you both for popping on today in this super insightful conversation. I know I learned a lot. I know that Lauren was like working her butt off in the chat too, providing a lot of resources for Jane. I will say that Jane has like amazing resources on their website for to answer honestly most of these questions. They have videos and blogs and descriptions for how to run each report. So I definitely recommend, for those of you joining who want to get a deeper dive into Jane, definitely checking out the links that Lauren dropped in, because those are going to be really, really helpful as you kind of wrap up this year. So as we kind of part ways for today, I just wanted to point you guys to the chat one last time. Jack, I think, is going to be dropping the link for next month's session. So that'll be my last month hosting with you guys to wrap up the year. I will be back with Melanie Emlin for my final ambassador office hours, where we'll be diving more into goal setting, right? So today we talked about more metrics, what we want to be looking at reflectively. Now, what do we want to be doing looking forward into the new year? So I'm really looking forward to that, although I'm obviously going to be sad because it'll be my last time here with you guys. But yeah, there you go. Jack dropped the link in there. And I look forward to seeing you guys next month. Happy holidays, everybody.